What's going on YouTube? This is Texans Takeover back in another video. In today's video, I have a Texans 7-round mock draft. The stick to the model is currently undergoing something. It's going to be fixed soon, so maybe that video will be out tomorrow or the day afterward. We'll see when it gets fixed, but in the meantime, we're just going to do another traditional 7-round mock draft. This is the draft capital that the Texans have. Don't expect it to really change unless we do end up trading CJ Stroud. I heard about that. I heard about Davis Mills to the Vikings potentially. So maybe there's something there as well, but I really doubt anything happens with Stroud, so we're just going to start this draft, and that is the earliest I've seen Jeremiah Love go at pick number 4. Um, Absurdly high, but there is that. Spencer Fano, oh, okay, of course. I was gonna say hasn't gone yet, so maybe we trade up for him, but as I say that, he does go. So we're just gonna stick in pick here at 28. Um, or do we stick and pick? Do we trade down? What do we want to do? Um, the more that this draft process is going through, the more that I do want the Texans to kind of trade down. Um, so I'm going to explore that possibility here. And it seems like the Raiders are the team that want um, pick 28. So if we could get, I mean, you can get 43, 75, and 111. Um, you could look to do that. You could look to get obviously all 4 of these. Can you get their entire draft? You could if you really wanted to. And then with the Steelers, you could do something like this and pick up a lot of mid-round capital if that's something you're intrigued in. For me, I really like the idea of trading back to 36 and 67. And if you give up 128, maybe that should be something that's going to be accepted. Um, or getting 107, 117. Um, and 134, I think would be a very fair trade. So we're going to do that, pick up 3 picks in excess of moving down 8 spots, which I think is completely fair. Um, and can Monroe Freeling go to the Cardinals? What the Cardinals do? They went with David Bailey. So we are going to exercise our draft capital um, and use the 117 that we had or 134 to pick up 182. We'll do, yeah, we'll do something like this and give 117 instead and 165 or 244. I'll do this. I think this is a little more fair. To move up 4 spots in the second round, they pick up 117 and 244. We pick up 141 and 182. Um, so we're able to move up. And here with this pick, I'm going to pull the trigger on Mr. Monroe Freeling um, out of Georgia. And then if CJ Allen's available to us, which he is, then we're going to double up on the UGA prospects. Monroe Freeling, a right tackle in college, that's going to slot in and play right tackle for us right away. I really like him in the pass block game. He has a lot of projectability in the NFL, a lot of potential as well. I think he could be one of the better tackles in the league as he just grows and develops. It's not going to be a 1 year thing. He's just going to learn as he goes along and get better and better. You can see how good he was in the pass block game for Georgia this year. I'm a big fan. Sorry, he's a left tackle moving to right tackle in the NFL. Um, right tackle is Blake Miller. I believe Ian Atcher played right tackle as well. Um, and then Fano played right tackle. Maui Noah played right tackle. I'm just used to saying guys played right tackle and are sticking at right tackle. But guys like Caleb Lomu, who played left tackle, might move over to the right, or they may even move to guard at the end of the day. Um, Depends on what teams see with Caleb Lomu. Caleb Tiernan could be a guard as well, even though he's pretty big. Um, you never really know. Isaiah World, a right tackle, it's going to stay at right tackle. But Monroe Freeling certainly a first round worthy player. So are Blake Miller and Maxie Natural. So keep an eye out on that. But I really like Monroe Freeling's game. A very agile tackle, and I think he's only going to get better as he goes on in the NFL. Here at 36, I am going to address our linebacking need, and I'm going to go to CJ Allen. I think it's a little bit of a fall for him to fall all the way down to 236. I think he's really good in the run and the pass game. We're going with 2 Georgia Bulldogs. I think this, oh no, it's pass rush grade. I think this coverage grade should be significantly higher just because of how good of an athlete he is. I think he could be, um, one of the better cover guys on the Texans roster if we were to bring him in. Didn't have a good end to the season, as you can see by the grades. I think he was a little bit better against Ole Miss than what they gave him credit for, but Alabama, he wasn't great. Neither was he against Georgia Tech, but that's a tricky team to play against, so there's that. Um, super athletic, and I think the Texans can utilize that athleticism to get a very good player out of CJ Allen. So that is my pick there at 36. And then I guess we'll just hold it out till 59. I'm not going to do any moves until then. Blake Miller does just go there. Same with Chase Basantis, who I was looking at. But here at 59, I think this could be a edge rusher, to be honest. I think you could look at the possibility of bringing in Derek Moore. I think you could look at bringing Jadarian Price. I've done that quite a lot, and it seems like it's a pretty consistent trend among a lot of people to bring in Jadarian Price to the Texans. Other interior offensive linemen that I like Sam Hecht. I like Keelan Rutledge down the board. Um, I like Bo Stevens down the board. So I'm gonna hold off on that. I think the interior defensive line might need to be addressed, but you can do that in a little bit too. The way that the Texans are drafting right now, I think this is a good spot to trade down from, and I think 74 could be a great spot. But if you could pick up somewhere in the 70s and the 80s, does anyone have that type of flexibility? Um, Something like this, and then you'd probably have to give up 134 or 165. Yeah, I'd do this. Um, to pick up 75 and 87. So we do that. Dolphins are moving up, and we move back down slightly to hopefully get our guys in the middle of the board that I do really like. And we are up here at 69 with Max Clare still on the board. I think you got to pull the trigger on that all day of the week, to be honest. Just a blocking tight end who can receive as well. Jack Injury is very similar to Max Clare, but I think Max Clare is the true guy that we should be looking afterward. Big Citrus goes right there. Jadarian Price goes right there. Sam Hecht and Connor Lew go there. So that's four potential picks for the Texans that go four picks right before them. Dolphins move up to draft Corey Leone. I'm just going to pull the trigger on Max Clare, not think about it. I think we need that type of tight end on this roster. And then going back to back offensive lineman, I am actually going to go with a guard in the NFL in Jennings Dunker. Just love the Iowa guys. I think if you can coach them, or not even coach them, if you can just plug them where they need to be, then they're going to be some of the best offensive linemen in your unit just because of the way that they are coached. This is a guy, again, going to slot into guard in the NFL, but still showed out in the Senior Bowl, just a really, really good player. And I think he's only going to continue to get better in the NFL. So I would really like Jennings Dunker as a part of the Houston Texans because I think that sets a culture on the offensive line, to be honest, that he'll bring in. Here at 87, I initially moved down to or picked up 87 to try to get Darrell Jackson Jr., but now that he's not available, I am going to pivot. I'm going to go to the running back position, and I'm going to go with the top guy in Emmett Johnson. Had the production at Nebraska, about 1,500 yards and I think 17 touchdowns. 12 touchdowns, sorry. 17 touchdowns would be Jeremiah Love. But 1450, yeah, near 1,500 yards. Good in the gap scheme, good in the zone scheme. Texans could utilize the frame that he has, another bulky runner, kind of similar to Woody Marks, but a dynamic playmaker at the position and young as well, so he still has a lot of juice left in him and a lot left in the tank. So I think the Texans could use him as a plug and play guy to be our RB1 if we are looking for someone in that position if we don't address it in free agency. Here at 102, I am going to go with as safety. Not Genesis Smith. I am going to go with Mr. Bud Clark out of TCU. Showed some really good stuff in the Senior Bowl that I think a lot of teams are going to value. Good in the coverage, great good in the run game. And I think the Texans could use a really good run defender that can play in the box. And that's certainly what Bud Clark brings to the table. So I think that makes it an easy selection. He's a guy that can play the nickel for you. He's a guy that can play over the top or in the box for you. Whatever you want him to do, he's going to be able to do. He's a playmaker. And I think that's the one word you'd use to describe Bud Clark, a playmaker. Um, just a really, really good player, and I'm excited to see what he does in the NFL because that Senior Bowl tape was really bright, and I think a lot of teams are going to end up valuing that. Here at 106, I think you're looking at addressing the defensive line, and I think Grayson Holton's someone you could look at. Um, you could address center if you want to, with going with like a Pat Coogan. You already addressed guard in this draft with Jennings Dunker. You already addressed tackle with Monroe Freeling. I'm expecting Cade Mays to come in free agency, to be honest. That's the only rumor we've seen out of uh, out of Houston. Caleb Proctor is an interesting one. He just got added. Doesn't have the traditional size of D lineman, but has the production. I believe had like 11 sacks this past season for Southeastern Louisiana. I believe an FCS school, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But at the same time, production's production. Um, and we'll see where he ends up going. But here at 106, um, I think this is a trade down spot. I think you could pick up draft capital for next year. Just with the options on the board, I don't think there's really a need for the Texans to go anywhere. Maybe Markel Bell if you just want to get a huge tackle. I believe he's 6'9". Yeah, 6'9", 345. If you want to get your backup tackle or your replacement to, um, what's his name? Blake Fisher, sorry. Um, at that sixth offensive lineman, then you could definitely look at Markel Bell. You can look at Trey Zune here. I know this is a little early, but just such a good pass blocker that he could slot in at guard and do a very good job. Same with Cage Casey. I really like him. Um, but I am going to trade out of this pick, and I'm going to look to pick up a fourth, a sixth, and 160, 130 maybe from this year. And that goes through with the Broncos. So I think that's a very fair trade. Um, Picking up some good capital for next year. I know it doesn't really mean anything in this, but sometimes you gotta value that in these mock drafts. And here at 128, I am going to go with Grayson Holton, who is available to us. Um, Smaller guy, kind of similar to Tommy Togiai with the motor that he plays with, 5 sacks, 22 hurries. Really good in the run game too, even at that frame. I think he's going to be excellent in the NFL, to be honest. And if you do want to power or pair him, excuse me, with a bigger defensive lineman, then you could go to a double up here, and you could go with like a Demonte Capehart, a Cole Brevard, something like that. Um, to really excel that unit. But here at 130, um, I am going to go with another tackle, maybe in Isaiah World or a guard potentially. Um, I'm not big of a fan of DJ Campbell, but I really like the idea of a Bo Stevens to the Texans. Um, and what am I going to do here? I don't really like the options available to us, to be honest. Jaden Knott could be an interesting one. I am just going to pull the trigger, I think, on Isaiah World and go with the tackle that could be a potential six offensive lineman. And if you develop him into what he could be with this frame, then you do have a really good tackle on your hands. And, that does give some flexibility for injuries if Monter Freeling gets hurt, if Jennings Dunker gets hurt, if Titus Howard gets hurt, if Ursery gets hurt. You're able to slot in Isaiah World, and you have some depth there on the offensive line. Here at 134, I think you could go with a second running back in Jaden Knott, who had a really good Senior Bowl, or you could go with the second tight end. Um, Excuse me, I don't know where this yawning's coming from. You could go with another wide receiver if you want to round out the unit, and the Texans could certainly do that with someone like a Brennan Thompson, who's a speed guy, which we don't really have. Um, or Kevin Coleman Jr., who I really like. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with Kevin Coleman Jr. I just really like his tape. Been a big fan of him. Similar to Luther Burden, a little bit worse of a prospect, obviously, but just a good player. And developed similar to what Luther Burden was at Mizzou. Fitting that they came from the same school because they're developed in a similar pattern. And you can see that with the tape from Kevin Coleman. Obviously, just not as explosive or dynamic as Luther Burden, which is why he's here at 134. But I think the Texans could round out their wide receiver unit with someone like Kevin Coleman to be, their wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, whatever they want him to be. Here at 141, we traded down to the spot, and I think I'm just going to pull the trigger on Bo Stevens unless I can move down to something like this with this. Yeah, we'll do this. I think that's a very fair trade. Picking up 3 picks to move back a little bit, and that's exactly what we do. Bo Stevens does go there, so that's what we traded out for. But here at 149, I think you could utilize the safety depth that is available to you with Jalen Kilgore. I think he could go a lot earlier than this. I really like the prospect that Jalen Kilgore is. He can play safety. Um, he can play corner. He can play nickel. He can do whatever you really want him to do. You can see that he lined up in the slot a lot. That tends to show that he is a nickel, but just very physical, really good run defender. And I think the Texans could really value that and make him a very good player in the NFL. So that's going to be the pick there at 149. And he could also be a backup corner if Stingley, Lassiter get hurt, or even if Petrie gets hurt, then Jalen Kilgore could slot in right there. You're just picking up pieces to be dynamic playmakers for you on the defense this draft, which is why you get C.J. Allen, Bud Clark, Holton, Kilgore, and I think you could use one more to be a big boy um, in the trenches there for you, and that is why the Cole Brevard pick is going to go through, or Demonte Capehart. It's really a whoever you want. This is really an offensive lineman on the defensive line, just with defensive line athleticism. And this is a guy that's a traditional defensive line size, and a really good run stuffer. I'm going to go with DeMonte Capehart. I just really like how quick his first step is. It's something that really intrigues me. And I think if you can coach up the other aspects of his game, then you do have a really good player in there. And I'm not going to do anything else. We're just going to skip right over to 227, where here we are going to go with. Um, I think an edge rusher. Yeah, we're gonna go edge rusher here, at 227. I like the idea of a Mason Rieger. Patrick Payton could be someone that's intriguing as well, just because of his size. You could have him as a rotational guy. Eric O'Neill could be a true pass rusher. Has decent size as well. Maybe like the arms to be a little bit longer though, but not bad at all for Rutgers. I believe had 13 sacks and then transferred to them. Um, Logan Fano, I believe, is Spencer Fano's brother. Has decent size as well, and not the oldest. So that's a guy that you could look at and potentially develop. And that's what we'll do. We'll go with Logan Fano at 227, and then to round out our draft, um, we'll go with another guy, um, that I actually somewhat like. I do actually like VJ Payne a lot. Um, I like Bryce Foster a lot, just not the biggest. Or sorry, no, it's Davion Carter. That's not the biggest. Out of Texas Tech, 6 foot 295. Sorry, I got them mixed up. Um, yeah, Bryce Foster is big, and good in the run game, so you can look at that. But I do like the idea of Connor Tollison to come in, and do a solid job on the offensive line. Been a consistent starter everywhere he's been. So that is going to round out our draft. Should be an actual pretty decent grade in this one, compared to others. As I say, that Max Clare is a C, Jennings Dunker is a C, Bud Clark is a C minus. But we do get a B plus, so better than usual. Not really looking for the grades here. I'm looking for the players that I do like at the positions that I do get them. But yeah, that is everything. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, subscribe. And as always, it's Texans Takeover. Sorry for the break. I just wanted a couple of days to myself just to relax, reset. Now we're back posting videos. So if you do enjoy the videos, please be sure to like, subscribe, because it do show me that you do enjoy them. And, we're on the road to 500 subscribers and the road to getting monetized. So, please help me reach that. And as always, it's Texans Takeover. And finally, I'm out. Peace.